All right. Welcome to Contractor's Corner. I'm Adrian Park, and with me today is the founder of Contractor AI, founder and owner of J. Carter Roofing, marketing ninja,
Mm, I'd add that one.
pipeline assassin, and and a man who is proof that in Canada, roofs aren't just for igloos, they're also for building an 8-figure empire. The
Ah.
true king of the North, John Carter, but we call him Jay.
Wondering when you're gonna run out of these. I don't know. Do you work on
I will
those?
never run out. It's a game now.
Yeah.
So, all right. So last week we talked about planning, and we're going to spend some more time on that today and get a little more specific. To get us started, last week I mentioned that, or I just mentioned it in passing, but I'm going to go get a little more into detail. So in Jan of 17, I went to a Tony Robbins Business Mastery, very good planning, like great business conference, done, sort of Tony Robbins style, if you know his style, where it's a lot of like moving your body and a lot of music. It's like a dance party meets a seminar. So, but really came back with some solid goals, and was really excited about that. Would have been was gonna be my first full year in the contracting business as a mason restoration guy. So I came back and I had these goals that I had set a little bit. How do I say this? So I was a little uninformed. We had done 1.7 million the year before, made about 300 grand, which was, or a little more than 300 grand, which was a record year for the company in 40 years. So super excited about that. And I thought, we're going to double that. We're going to double that this year. And we're going to do, 30% margin, we're going to 1.2 million. And as I said last week, so I got all the team together. I got my whiteboard and I wrote out on the whiteboard, 2017, 3.5 million, 1.25 net. And it was crickets. Crickets. Nobody said anything. The looks on people's face were horror, shock, disbelief. If I could put some of them to words, it would be like, go F yourself. And needless to say, we did not do 3.5 million that year. In fact, we did like 1.4, and we lost about $560,000.
Wow.
So it wasn't great. However, in 2019, so 2 years, or 3 full years later, we did do 3.5, and we did 850,000. We did like 25% margin on that, which for a contractor, phenomenal. And then we went on to, we actually hit almost 5 million. And so for 3 years, we were netting on average right around just over $1 million net. So that was a extremely informative experience. If I could go back and do it all over again, Jay, I still would have come up with a bigger number, right?
Mhm.
But I probably wouldn't have been as big a number. I probably would have tried to double sales. Okay. But I think that, looking back on that, it's, and let me back up a second. So going into that meeting that in early 2017, I don't want to say I was scared. I mean, I was uncomfortable. You could even say scared, because I had only been in the business for 6 months. I had made some pretty big contributions, so I felt good about that. But I was still, one guy that eventually managed out. His nickname for me behind my back was Golden Boy, but not in a flattering way,
Right.
in a sort of FU way. And let's just say, like, I was not the most popular guy in the business, probably mostly because I was trying to change a lot of things, even in my first 6 months. So I knew that when I stood up there and wrote my numbers on that whiteboard, I knew that like if anyone's excited about that, like the probability of that is like, you know, zeroed and like not, and
Yeah,
it's,
not
and then
happening.
it's not gonna happen. So like, and I didn't know you. So
Right.
we weren't working together at that time. So I didn't have somebody that I could go to and go, hey, help me plan this. So we can learn from my mistakes, right? Now,
Mhm.
now, so I said so the mistake. So if I were to go back and like talk to like 2017, my younger age, you know, younger Adrian, I would say like set a goal that's a little more realistic. So, you know, maybe set it for two, you know, maybe set the goal for like 2 million or something around there, you know, because we definitely had the capacity. But I would also, but I would not, I wouldn't criticize younger me for setting a for having the audacity to set an aggressive goal, right?
Right.
Because we did like having that. Like, I think the thing that we tend to forget, and maybe we'll just talk just for a second about the psychology of goal setting, is that there is something to like setting a true north,
Mhm.
and then even if it's in my case a stupid like an out something you're not going to hit, you know, for a business that was that when I came in was on paper was insolvent,
Right.
you know, so even if you're not going to hit it, setting a true north and having something that everybody can steer toward, there's tremendous value in that, even if you miss it, right?
So let me interrupt you for a second.
Of course.
And just I want to emphasize something that's really important here. Is we have obviously a range of people that are on this call, and you know, kind of the way that I have come to the conclusion on planning. We do planning with our clients. We like everything is documented and planned. Now, I'll be honest with you. I
Yeah.
absolutely hate planning. I don't want to do it. It's not a pleasure of mine. I don't like stay up at night and like get energy from like, hey, we're gonna make a plan tomorrow.
Right.
But here's something that I had to build that muscle and build that that skill is because what you are essentially doing by let's take your situation as an example is you've brought in this huge division with no direction to get there. So for
Right.
people that work below you, who are actually the ones that do the work, they're going to roll their eyes at you and be like, okay, so he just
Right.
wants me to work more, figure it out, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so again,
Yep.
planning is leadership. When you take a huge vision and you come to your team, not just with the vision, but with the steps and the, you know, actions that have to happen to make that occur. Or in what I always recommend is get your team to buy in on the planning. All right.
Right.
So let them share. But again, that
Yeah.
requires leadership and their own ideas. Some people are not at that state yet. But if you've got a small team, for example, and you want to, you know, expand to a larger team and you go to them and you tell them your vision, well, that's management. If you go to your
Right.
team and ask for their buy-in by laying out a plan that you've created,
Right.
you are
Right.
going to get better results. Now, here's the
Right.
last thing. I'm just going to share my screen real quick and just explain my point here is no matter even with the best plans, okay? And again, you know, I know people that plan extensively, they over plan, okay? What you have to remember is you and everyone you plan to make this change with that is affected will go through a certain set of
Yeah.
emotional
It's good.
reactions, okay?
Yes. That's
So
good.
what we don't want to have happen as a leader or, you know, is the shiny object. We come in and, hey, I want to do 10 million. Great. No actions, no plan. It falls flat because you go through the optimism and you're like, wait a minute, that might be too big, blah, blah, blah. But you've done damage to your team. Okay. They've
Yeah.
lost confidence in your
How
leadership.
how are you doing damage? Can you
Okay,
like
so yeah, so there's a again because they're gonna react. So you come in with the shiny object idea, all right?
right.
Hey, we want to do this, this, and this, and then you get discouraged in following through, all right?
Right.
Because you don't have a plan. You can't keep your emotions under wraps, and a lot of owners are in this consistent, continuous state. And I know I was. I've yet to see very many people I've worked with that haven't had this trap where they've got these great ideas and these, you know, inspirations and these ideas and everything else. They come with us to us with them. They can imagine their future with it, but they don't have the substance in between. So, and then it gets even compounded now that you take the shiny object idea that you get your team excited in. Best
Right.
case, hey, listen, let's think of it the other way, Adrian. If you got your team really excited about it, Okay, they're all pumped, they're all ready to go. And then as the optimism drops into pessimism of like, okay, when are we doing this? When is it going to get done? Like
Yeah.
now all of a sudden we become overwhelmed with just the fact that he brought that idea and didn't
Right.
follow through with it. We hit valley of despair with an own. And again, this, what I'm showing you is unavoidable. Okay, unavoidable. And it's even more impacted on people that work for you, right? Because they're
Right.
afraid of change. They want to just like, again, a lot of them is you're more adapt to change than the people you have below you or around you. Okay.
Right.
So let's just imagine now they go to the valley of despair and you're still pushing this objective. You're still pushing that, hey, we want to get to like, then it turns into resentment from your team. Your team buys out,
Yep.
completely buys out of the idea, and it's shut down. Now here's where owners and leaders lose control. Is that they bring the next shiny object, and every time now they make an ask to that team,
that's a good point.
they
man.
are
Yeah.
less and less likely to take it on. And I know too many owners that like put their team
Good
through
point.
these sprints without a plan,
Yeah.
without an idea, and then squash it. Well, you're killing the morale of your team. You're killing the opportunity in the future to come back to them and actually have something that goes through.
Great point.
And then you sit back and you go, well, I can't get my team to do this. I can't get my team to do that.
And blame them.
That's right. Well,
Yeah,
if
what's
I
wrong
just
with these
had,
people?
you know, again, but you're not looking back. Like if you had slowed down and properly worked through that idea or shiny object with your team in a way that made you're going to, number one, you're going to achieve more. And that's, I think, what you said earlier about why does it work? I said it last week too. I can write a plan down and I do. I force myself to do it. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. Right. But it forces me to think logically about how I would make this happen. Once it's out of my head and once I have it on paper, I could put it in my desk drawer, walk away from it, and then come back 3 months later. And lo and behold, I followed the steps because at a subconscious level, right, I knew what I had to do and I can keep myself accountable to that. Now with a team, different. It's about accountability. That's why that plan is where when they get down to this optimism, pessimism, overwhelm, you can bring them back to the plan. There's just focus on the very next step. Just focus on the small things that you've set up and the milestones to know you're actually getting towards the goal and not further away. Because a lot of times in these projects that you take on, so let's just take it a CRM, for example. Okay. That is a massive undertaking for any business at any scale, at any state, anytime. Okay. But it is essential if you ever want to grow a business, bottom line. Okay. Now, what
100%.
I hear more often than not is owners that came in, they had a great idea Friday. They were at a conference or a seminar and heard about this great system. They buy it, they get it, and they come in and they slap it on the new, you know, or their admin girl and go, I need this set up.
Yeah.
How well do you think that goes?
Right.
And then they're frustrated when it
doesn't go.
And then they're frustrated, or even worse, they use one feature out of it, not learn to use the rest, and then they begin to, you know, Frankenstein other solutions. And I get into businesses all the time where they have software for everything and none of it being used at all. Right. So this is where a plan forces you to ask the questions and forces you to think about what's involved, including your time, your energy. And then understanding too that, you know what, this isn't always going to be, I'm not always going to feel so good about this project. Like I like to do it like that, where I imagine the valley of despair, where I'm like, I like this idea, but am I in love with it? Is it worth all the energy I'm about to exert to going into this? Or is there a better option? Is there a better play that I can make? Can I hire someone to do that? Right. And avoid that pain and avoid going through that. And a lot of times you can flush these things out by just applying that, you know, planning framework to what you're about to do, because it might be the right idea and you might have the right plan, but at the wrong time.
And I think too, I was going to say, if I can just like interject really quickly, I think that the valley of despair is, I think that's what keeps a lot of us.
Yep.
Like one, we don't really want to do it, but we really don't want to do it because of that fear of knowing we got to go there or feeling like we got to go there.
It's unavoidable.
So then we don't do anything.
I call it paying the taxes. All right. It doesn't matter. And a lot of guys don't realize, they blame it on themselves. They blame it on other things, but they don't realize it's a physiological, hardwired mechanism
Right.
That's in every human being on planet Earth. If you change your toothpaste tomorrow, you will go through this experience. Where you don't
Right.
want to be caught though is misunderstanding that these emotions are just my body and my
Normal. Yeah.
it's normal,
Yeah.
right? And again, it's okay that I don't have everything, because I find a lot of guys who it needs to be perfect for them, and even if it is
Right.
perfect, they would still find a way to find it not perfect. And then what they do is they get to this place, especially like if you're running a business, you don't want to show your vulnerability or tell people, you're not sure or you don't know. This is what happens is now we're looking for a new solution, because we're trying to always, human beings are designed to move away from pain and towards
Right.
pleasure. So when the
Absolutely.
work starts, we want to move away
Yeah.
from it. We want to do less of it. And that's where being conscious of where you are in the change and why you're feeling and pushing your team, and not coming down on people who are going through that, but waiting for them to respond. And again, by the plan, hey, by this step, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to have this thing in place by this step. And you don't have to look at the thing. The other common issue, and you just nailed it on the head with how you came in with your team, is that is an overwhelming big vision that very
Yes.
few people would buy into, because you haven't answered the WIIFM question. What's in it for me?
Right.
How's this going to
That's
improve
right.
again, why
Right.
would I invest more or take
Right. Why would
time
I
to
work
do
harder for
more?
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So whenever we're doing this, the point of planning with your team, if you're dealing with a team, is it should never be your vision is your vision, and that's cool, but it should always be something that is you're capable of having people buy into. So
Right.
when we talk about plan, for me, I always have the vision, but I am in the back of my head, I'm looking to, go through that meeting with a very specific outcome of it. And what I'm trying to
Yeah.
do is get my team to understand how they can contribute to move this objective forward. And what
Right.
happens is, again, they have a very focused, like direct responsibility for that. And
Right.
it starts to happen, and you start to get accountability to it. Right.
So I think, to go back to this graph you're sharing,
Yeah.
I think that again, the mistake we make as business owners or entrepreneurs, um, as contractors, is that we end up going through the first half of the cycle. Like we have an idea and we're like, and we take it to our team and we're, this is what we're going to do. And it's just like I did, right? All this enthusiasm and all this fire. And then what happens is you get into the valley of despair. And now, first of all, as the leader, you're alone, because everyone's like, I told you it wasn't going to work. I mean, they don't say it to your face, but that's what they're saying, right? Because that's what's saying behind your back. We knew this wasn't, they're talking, shit about you. And then, so you're alone in the valley of despair. You don't feel good. They really don't feel good. And then you come up with a new idea and you go back to the beginning.
Well,
and you're just on this crazy 8, right? You're
just over and over again. Yep.
Add in on this infinity wheel of like, okay, that didn't work. Let's go back. And so what happens, I think, is that one, very frustrating, very expensive to do that, in terms of dollars and cents. But also it's super demoralizing, both for you and for your people. And you lose trust because people think this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, because for all intents and purposes, you're not executing. And so you're just in this like cycle, and it's a lonely and expensive place to be. But I think it's where a lot of folks live, right?
And absolutely, I see it day in and day out, and I have to stop customers and clients that we have of ourselves, because it stops them from taking more risks in the future,
Right?
And they play small because they've had some defeats, and if they could go back. And again, I asked the question, I'm always curious about the psychology of why like somebody, that to me, like, has all the things. Like, you have no idea how many businesses I've gone in where they've got 95% of this, 80% of that. I'm like, why was this just abandoned? Like, why? Like, I'm curious.
So
and
close.
it's because, oh, well, this person, started do like, as soon as the changes that weren't planned start to kick in. And it's really, the truth is that they were no longer stimulated with it. It didn't bring the exact result or the short-term result that they wanted. And they realized it was a long-term commitment. And that's really the questions you need to ask in your plan. Like, hey, this is the best I'm going to feel about this idea.
Right.
Okay. Until the opposite comes of this idea. What, like, don't think about how great you feel about it now. Think
Right.
about how terrible it's going to be when you get into the work part of it. And
Right.
if you're going to be, as again, because this is how great ideas win or lose, right? In the
Mhm.
valley of despair, where we've all been, imagine that. Is this going to be something you're still passionate enough and have the drive to push through and
Yeah.
actually put it into play, right? And most ideas, I got to be honest with you, with Adrian, and this is where I think a lot of owners and leaders and people in general can improve their overall clarity on direction and just remove the trash. Okay, is because we all have great ideas.
Right.
Ideas are cheap; they're everywhere. Okay,
Right.
and we share a lot of ideas. We share a lot of things, but the point here is if you don't have a system for managing your ideas, it becomes a negative. A great
Right.
idea could be a burden and something that actually goes against your confidence, right?
Right.
And it'll burn you out as well because there's so much input everywhere, but it's all fragmented. So we get stuff from, maybe getting stuff from here and another place and over here. And like, by the time you try to wash that idea through, it shouldn't have, and who's to say it was even worthwhile in the first place? So
Right.
my suggestion here and what we do, okay, is we have a capacity protection system. All right.
Okay.
And in Contractor AI, you were on our call today. What happened? Hey, if you got an idea, here's the
Right.
process.
Here's
Here's
how
the
we do it.
steps.
Yeah.
Here's 5 things you need to do. All right.
Right.
We want your ideas, but you're going to work it out. And so you can explain it to somebody else and they get their input. And then we have a criteria we go through because if
Right.
not, then just ideas get turned into actions that again can affect your whole operation, can distract you from important things. Like just asking yourself the question, like, who's involved? How many people need to stop what they're doing to start this?
Yeah.
That question alone will most oftentimes tell you you don't have the capacity to do this.
Yeah. So I want
So
to go
now you're
back.
back to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back, Jay, and to like what we were saying about the, like kind of this kind of crazy eight, like this infinity of like
Mhm.
starting an idea and then you get to the valley of despair and then it didn't work and your team's pissed off, your crews are pissed off, you're pissed off, you feel like crap and you go back and you do something, like, okay, that wasn't working. And I think the other challenge, the other thing that happens is that things that actually might have like they might have actually been working or it was gonna work,
Yep.
but
Gets dropped.
we abandoned them and
Mhm.
so now we had this thing and we did the hardest part.
Mhm.
We did the hardest part, but we go, it's not working, and we feel this pressure because maybe it's costing too much, or maybe our top people are pushing back, or they're not on board, and so I think that again, there's that part. I think that too many, and I saw it. I mean, I saw it with the again running the masonry business because I had this sort of like iron will, but at the owner
Mhm.
at the time he did not. And so
Right.
like I had to make sure he didn't abandon the plan, and go back to these things that had, cost hundreds and thousands of dollars in the past. So
Right.
it's so because it's easy when, you're getting pressure from, like a spouse or from like a key man or a key woman, in the business that's going, this isn't working, but you know, maybe it is. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, totally. So, and again, it comes down to a couple of things. So, discipline is a big one. All right. We too often as owners, myself included, like as myself today had to correct myself. Okay.
Right.
And, because I found, and it happens, right? You have this idea, you want to get it played. You're like, oh, that'll work for this. But I make a mistake because when I do that to my team, they lose trust in me. They lose because all it takes is something not to
Right.
work out. So you're basically
Yeah.
going in, putting it all on red that this idea is going to work out. It's going to be great. And what you may find, like I did today, right? And it's ironic that we had the scheduled no connection, but
Right. Yeah.
today, what did I have to do? I had to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't do this properly.
Yeah, we got to.
I know that what our process is,
Right.
and our process is, again, you know, when we're talking about this, is we have tons of great ideas. We got clients that bring us ideas. Like we are an
Right.
idea factory and a place where
Absolutely.
innovation occurs, and
Yep.
we want that. That is
Right.
good. Okay,
Yes.
but
Great.
without a structure to support those ideas and see those things through, and to ask the important questions from the people that actually have the ability to have impact on it, they're always going to be just there. And every
Right.
time, and again, you're not going to execute, you're not going to train your team to follow through. And that's the point we're making with the graphs and how we do it. Like, it's the follow through that
Yeah.
counts. Again, ideas can be, you could have a million ideas all you want. If you don't have a way to execute and follow through with a team or yourself, even, you are
Yeah.
going to be, you know, you're off to the next idea. Why? Because we want to move away from that pain. We want to move towards pleasure. And again, you're a marketing dream at that point. If I
Right.
want to market to you, I'm going to do what? I'm going to tell you that I solved that problem or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So think about it, right?
Well, I think too, Jay. So the thing that, so maybe just to like put just a small pin in this.
Mhm.
So one of the things that, one of the reasons, like when we found each other, almost, I guess, more than 3 years ago, you know, I was looking for, you know, I had somehow managed to turn around a business again that was insolvent on paper when I came in, and we were making a lot of money, and you know, just a lot of great things happening. Um, and but I felt like at that time, like I had a lot of muscle around planning, and again, it was working because the stuff that I was doing, we were
Mhm.
hitting these goals and so on. And by the way, I got better at the whole team thing because I actually, the way I planned going, you know, after I started figuring some stuff out, is I actually pulled in like I pulled my, you know, from the field, I pulled sales, I pulled people in, and like I planned with my team, so
That's
that
right.
helped a lot. But what I was going to say is that I was looking for a community, but also like, you know, also someone that could help me with that true north, right?
Right.
And I think, you know, just thinking about, I was thinking about this when you said what you said a minute ago. You know, one of the things I feel is really, I don't know if it's different, isn't the word. One of the things that I feel is extremely effective, that's the word I was looking for, is
Mhm.
that, you know, like when you're sitting down with, you know, one of our electrician clients or roofing clients or whatever, it doesn't really matter what trade they are, you know, you're meeting not just with the owner, you know, founder, but you're also meeting with their team, right? And you
Mhm.
and our team are meeting with their team. And so I feel like, you know, that it has such a different impact. And also, you know, one of the things that I remember feeling when we were working together in that capacity where I was on the other side and I was a client was that, you know, it sort of felt like, I don't know, it's like I wasn't alone anymore. Does that make
Right.
sense?
100%. So, and again, a lot of what we do is taking people's ideas and making them real and teaching them these systems. I
Right.
did it with you. I mean, again, I do it naturally because I've been doing it for so long, and like that, like it's just the way I set up everything that I do in
Yeah.
conversations is I'm thinking from an action step perspective. I hear ideas all the time. My first step in stage is, okay, now let's test exactly how committed you are to this. And if
Right.
it becomes a commitment, then it deserves a plan. So I want to real quickly just walk you through how we do it and how you could take a win away from today with an actual structure. Is that cool?
That's good. Yeah,
Take
let's do
five
this.
minutes. So this is a real idea that happened at like the weekly check-in that we had on our call. All right. Now, first of all, it's going to go through a criteria of great idea. What's our steps? First, we're going to flow chart. Show me the process. Okay.
Okay.
Document how it gets done. Think about if you're going to bring something to someone, all right, and you want your team to buy it. Document how, even if it's just bullet points, it doesn't matter.
Right. Right.
Think about how you're going to measure it. How will you know? And this is what makes things stick. Okay. I promise you. And this is where I've seen guys do the first two steps perfect, flawlessly, but not
Yeah.
think about how they're going to measure it and leave $1 million ideas
Yeah.
lost
Yeah.
because they didn't see the results. A prime example is marketing. Okay. Sometimes things take 3 months, sometimes things take 6 months.
Right.
Without looking at indicators or are having a goal and an endpoint and a key indicator to show that you achieve that goal, there's a good chance that it won't end up continuing to be done. If an owner knows black and white that, hey, you know what, this increased my sales 10%, 12%, or 3%, okay, I assure you, you will continue to make sure that that thing happens.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
And then again, this is where we allow the system to change and grow. Okay. So let's recognize something with any system or process or idea. Like we're talking about the same stuff here, same family.
Right.
Okay. I think too many people go in with an unrealistic expectation of what good looks like. Okay. For me, I look at, hey, you know what? My vision is 100%. This is like, but it's always, if I'm a good leader and a good visionary in writing good vision, it should be slightly outside of my reach. Because if it were just being hit every time, right?
Absolutely.
So when I think about things, I'm thinking about 100% of like, this would be dancing on stars, right? But I know, but emotionally I'm adjusted for 80. Okay. Right. So that when I get to the stage where I've got a result, like, cause it's grueling, it's a lot of work. There's going to be times you hate it and you don't want it. And like, I take customers kicking and screaming and I hold them accountable to getting that achieved. Cause I know damn well that what they're feeling right now is not what they're going to be feeling in 2, 3, 4 weeks.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And when we get there, you want to be able to give yourself enough credit and your team. And this is a leadership thing, is that, you know what, your team hit 80% of that goal and outline. Cool. Let's already have been planned for that. Let's be cool with that because we know it's going to get better. All right. You can build 80%, but it's the last 20% that could take a decade to get. And I know it from my own business. We fight for percentages here, percentages there, 1% here, 2%. Like the big wins are long gone. I'm not getting any big wins in my business, no matter which way I slice it. Again, and if you get to scale with any business, you will run into the same thing. The big wins, the quick wins, the stuff that gets you, Jack, they go away. Wait till you gruel through that. And then you're going to reach a point where the business doesn't, like, nothing is surprising. Nothing's really new. All right. Right. Just know that and a plan for it. And then always step back from your idea and your plan. If you can get it down like this, try to automate it. Try to make sure that you remove as much as the things that your team has to do. And like I call them the at risks, right? Is that we all can understand the big picture and the thing, but it's the nuts and bolts behind a process or anything like that you're putting in place. And this includes planning, right? You can automate the reminders to plan. You can, like, a process is as simple and a system is as simple, an automated simple, or let me say that 3 times fast.
3 times
the
fast.
The simplest process that you can automate is a calendar booking. So in your calendar, in your Google Calendar, automate to, review something. You've just created an automated process. You got a reminder of that thing to be done. And guess what? Your team can do it. And guess what will happen? You start doing, your team will start doing it. And that's as simple as this can be. So in terms of flushing your ideas out, right? So we've got this process now. Before I can execute this, I have to take the flow chart, the document, like I have to work at it. And it may die right there. I'm like, you know what? Right. This doesn't make sense. Forget it. I can't explain it.
And that's okay. It's
and
okay if it dies. Yeah.
Right. But here's the other thing. Now I've got a criteria. Like, is it in alignment with, the company's vision? And I'm not making these calls either, right? Like, we're having the whole team asking the same questions, right? Is it in alignment with where we're going? Yep. Is it going to produce customer success? Right. Is it profitable? Right. What's the impact and how easy is it to implement? Yep. Okay. All of those things, I'm going to roll up and say, 5, 5, 5. But when you start to ask your team like honest questions and you're willing to take that feedback, you're going to find that hits in a certain place. Now, step back from it again and get the votes, right? Like, who's down for this? And it can sit in this idea backlog until it's a better time, because we know what we know how hard it'll be, and maybe it's not in right now, and we get our team to vote on them. But away we go, right? Now, all I have to do, that's sitting on the shelf ready to go. Maybe we have a little bit of a slower period where it's appropriate now, or something's changed. We're ready to execute. We don't have to go back and do all of this over again. It's right there, right? Or someone may come along and improve on it, or add something else to it that now all that work is not lost. And I think I see that over and over again where we've,
Yeah.
you know, I can't help that say I go into a lot of businesses and you know, I think I may be repeating myself here. And I find everything they pay me to do, 80% done sitting in their desk. And I go,
Right.
hey, here you
It's right
go.
here. Yeah.
All
It's right
finished
here.
for you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Pay up
Yeah.
and we'll see you later. Like it is really that ridiculous sometimes. And going in and I can't, you know, I almost feel bad, right? You hired me to do a thing that you already did, right?
Right.
I'm going to just fix this.
Didn't
We're
follow
going to,
through. Yeah.
I'm going to come and sit down with your team, hold them by the ear, remind them of the point of why we're doing this, get them bought back into it,
Yeah.
come to a weekly meeting, and boom, all of a sudden they get through the last 5% of the project and they've bought in, everything's going. And it's like I created a miracle. I didn't do anything other
Right.
than hold you accountable and understand where you were emotionally on the change management curve.
And I think too, you know, it is, again, that valley of despair is real.
Oh,
And
in
it's,
everything.
and when you're there, and when you're there, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, it feels like the despair is so much more uh painful and powerful and real than the pleasure of the play. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's like if the pleasure is a 4, the despair is like a 20. And so
Right.
it's so anti-motivating and so hard. At the same time, the other side of that is, you know, again, this is my experience, and I know this is what's happening with our clients right now, is that when we do it together with our teams,
Mhm.
what ends up happening is, first of all, you're not going through it alone, or it, you know, like everyone's got, I mean, if you have more than 4 people working for you, or say 5, 4, 5, 6, there you have you at least have one superstar producer, generally speaking. So what ends up happening is it's you and the superstar, and that's how people lose superstars, because they
Right.
go through the valley of despair, and the business owner leader is taking them through, and the superstar, and they feel like they're alone. The superstar feels like they're alone, and then superstars leave because this sucked.
Right.
So I think, you know, the thing that I found was that not only were we more effective when we did it together, and also, by the way, I learned a lot of ways not to do it,
Yeah.
right? Now, I didn't use that exact system, but I had a similar thing. And what ended up happening was, one, we all got a win, which was
Mhm.
awesome. And I got credibility.
Right.
So I didn't, like, I've heard so many, so little, it's not a bunny trail, but it might feel like a bunny trail for a second. So many of my contractor buddies, I hear him say, well, you know, we're talking about something. Well, I'm the boss, you know, that, like, as if like, that's why they should just do it, because I'm the boss.
Sure.
Okay. That's, so is that true? Oh, of course, that's 100% true. However, like, that's a
But
lower
that's a lot of
way to
commitment.
operate.
And when the boss, that means you have to be right.
Right.
This is the
You're
difference what
taking
I'm
a,
talking about.
right.
As
That's
a
why I brought it
leader,
up.
I don't have to be right.
Right.
My job's to lead the team. My job's to get it right, not be right. All right. When you give up that I'm the boss, you will see enormous improvements in your organization. When you start be vulnerable and saying, "Hey, you know what, guys? I don't really know how to do this. I'm not really
Right.
sure if like this is good."
Yes.
People will pick up and they will feel
Yeah.
more appreciated by you
Right.
asking
Right.
and being honest with them than you'll
Yeah.
ever get by, even if you're right 100% of the time.
That's
Okay.
right.
I purposely do that. Even I've had whole things built, done, ready to go. I could come in and demand my team follows them, but I
Yeah.
don't. And
Right.
and the reason I don't is because that's not the way to lead a team. Okay, that's a way to dictate
No.
to a team. And at a low level manager level, like, you know, again,
Well,
you can run that. And there are
it,
situations where it applies. You know,
it's a way. It's a
right.
way.
But you will
It's
not scale a business with that.
right.
Where's the vision?
Well, and you
Where's
also,
yeah.
well, I was just going to say, the thing that I found, and so, you know, people will respond to, like, that high authority, hard authority, command and control, do it or the consequence. They will respond to that.
There's
However,
percentage of the population, yes.
however, what I found was far more effective was me saying, look, I don't there, you know, the the size of the volume of what I don't know is far more than the few things that I know. So help me. Like, here's where I think we need to be going. Help me with that. And then what happened was, one, I had more people working with me. So there's more people rowing, number one. Number two, everybody had a specific, OKR or KPI. Everyone had a specific target, and they helped come up with those. I wasn't dictating anymore.
That's right.
And I got credibility, Jay, because then I was the guy that took us from, like, it was hard. It's, losing that much money is hard. Everybody feels it, all the way to your, like, junior laborers. Everybody feels that stuff.
Right.
So it was, then it got so much easier to do this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, I think of it like, if I were to analogize this, we're in wintertime, it's like a snowball, right? So you form a little snowball. If you if you flick it, it might go a few inches.
Yep.
But if you keep flicking it and then all of a sudden maybe you're pushing it with your hands, and then you're on your hands and knees, and then maybe you're up on your hindquarters, and then next thing you know, you have this thing that's the size of you. And if you get, all of a sudden, like, if you push it, it'll just keep rolling, right?
Yep.
Because it gets its own momentum. And that was one of the most powerful things that I saw with what we did. And then again, we worked on this together for a couple of years, and like supercharged it. I didn't have to, so I never had to go to anybody and be like, well, I'm the boss, so you should do what I'm saying. I never had to use that. Now, did we have a disciplinary thing? And of course, you have to have you have to deal with things like that. But I didn't have to, like, leverage the fact that I was the boss and you're going to do this, because I didn't have to do that. Because one, I had a respect, and that respect was based on, like, not just the way we did it, but then of course we got results, and we got those results together. So, it's a totally different experience. And by the way, a ton more fulfilling.
And less work for you. I don't know if anyone, like, I haven't brought this up, but again, the easiest way to eat an elephant is small bites, right?
One bite at a time, baby. That's right.
The best way to do that is, you only have one mouth. What if you got 10 more involved, right?
That's right.
So again, and I think we undervalue the power of getting, a plan properly shaped and formed. We overvalue shiny objects.
Yes.
And we think that there are bullet solutions. I have yet to find a single magic bullet solution in a single thing I've ever done in my life.
That's right.
And if it's worth doing, and it's something that's going to last a period of time, and it's going to bring value to your life, don't go into it thinking it's going to be easy, because you're setting yourself up for the valley of despair to be even worse.
That's
because it's emotional intelligence. All right. You got to remember, we're running a marathon. We're not running a race. Okay. When you're in business, in any business, and contracting anything, you need to first of all remove, the instincts that came with being a tradesman. Like, you're running a marathon, or you're running a race when you're on a job site trying to get a job done. Right. Opposite applies in business. You are running a marathon. Okay. You're not trying to just get one job done. You're trying to sustain a business over a long period of time. And again, you're not going to get rich overnight. 99.99%. Now, there may be this, miracle out of the park thing, but at the end of the day, if you go into it with the emotional intelligence of, hey, in 30, 40 days, I'm going to feel the worst about this idea that I ever did.
Right.
If I'm at that 30 or 40 day mark and I'm emotionally intelligent, I know if I allow myself to keep pushing and keep taking the next step and following the plan that I set for myself and kept on track, that within 10, 15, 20 days, I am going to be back to even, meaning that I have broke even on my idea. It's in place. I'm not loving it. It's at 80, maybe not 100, but that last little piece, is going to put you back up where the
Right.
idea, you feel even better than when you came up with it.
That's right. That's right.
Because you've taken that whole thing and just think and apply it to everything else that goes on in your life. Like,
Yeah.
again, like I said, this is an unavoidable curve. The only thing that changes is your ability to adapt to it. Okay. So businesses nowadays, I hear this all the time. Businesses have to change and adapt faster than ever before else in history. Okay. There is no longer a static business. That is a myth. That is
Not that stays in
gone.
business.
Right. Like there isn't the guy that
It's-
just, starts off day one, does a certain way, and then never changes and, can stay in business. Like
right.
it's just not, it's not realistic anymore. And especially as we bring in more and more technology, the chances of you being obsolete in 6 months are higher than ever before. Okay.
Right.
So let's get away from the idea that, and I think this is really, the highlight point here is that things are going to be easy. All right. That things should come to you easy,
Right.
because what's the value of free? What's the value of, what is it? Zero, right?
Right.
You got nothing from it. So let's go into it with the emotional intelligence of knowing, hey, you know what? I'm going to struggle with this. There's going to be times when I wish I didn't do it. But by
Yeah.
the time I'm done, just like going to the gym, this is exactly the process of gym
Right.
membership. You start off day one, January 1, all of you guys working out, go to there mid-February, everyone's gone. Why?
Right.
I am explaining to you why.
Valley
It takes
despair,
90
baby.
days. Yeah, it
Yeah.
takes 90 days to build a habit, to make a
Right.
habit stick, right? That is that's you doing everything perfectly. Okay. If you wanted to change your, one habit, you want to stop eating bonbons at night and crying by the fridge. All right. That's going to take you,
Wow. That's an
know,
image.
right? That's going to take you, well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to have to correct. It's going to take you 90 days to adjust to that and have a habit of not, eating bonbons and crying by the fridge, right? Like
Right.
realistically, and that's probably a bad analogy, but go into it and listen and start to embrace the process. Start to give yourself credit when you're feeling that way. Like for me, I reversed the thought process saying, hey, I'm glad we're here and I hate this idea now, because that means I'm that much closer to me loving it.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I know it's a good plan. It's been weighed.
Yeah.
I don't have to question if it was right, wrong, or the other. And I
Right.
have all these other people that are feeling the same way I am, and we can laugh about it rather than argue about it, right?
Right.
And I'm not going to emotionally put my baggage onto someone else, just like they're not going to put it onto me.
Right.
Right.
So I think, yeah. So I think if, kind of to wrapping up today, so couple things. One, I know we have a resource for this, right?
Yes.
Also, for those that are, frankly struggling with, I mean, where I was at one point and where you've been at one point, and you're serious about, getting some, getting a, someone outside of like your team or your business to, give you some input.
If you've done this too
Take a
many times with
second.
your team and they're not buying in anymore,
Yeah.
you definitely need someone like us or, similar organization to come in and straighten those things out
Yeah.
and build that respect back and forth with your team. So yeah,
So
we
you can
do
book a
this for you.
call.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can hit our link, and there's a little book a call button right there. And of course, there are, some of these things that, like some of those things that Jay was sharing on the screen, those, all the resources, like all of our resources, everything, courses are all free to our, group members, community members. So, not everything we do is free, but like all the courses, they're all in there. So
There's
anybody that
no
wants,
information gating.
yeah. So we're not gatekeeping, to use the popular thing on TikTok. We're not gatekeeping stuff. It's the courses. If they're built and they're, if they're live, they're available. So, we have, I feel we have, I mean, our resources are as good as anything I've seen in the marketplace. And again, for community members, those are 100% free. Now, we don't let everybody in. So we're selective. I think it's 1 in 9, Jay. Is that,
Yeah, it's roughly that. Yep.
yeah, but so we don't just let anybody in, which means, people, because people try to join these groups and market to people and whatever else.
We don't have any of that.
Yeah, it's very like purebred, purely contractors, people that are, want more, want to level up their businesses. So if you click, if you hit the link on, it should be on this live or on any of our pages, you can book a call and or ask to join the group, and a lot of cool stuff going on. So for everybody, thanks for being with us. We are here every Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern time. Jay is doing trainings Thursdays at 3 o'clock. And like I said, if you want to book a call or you want to ask to join the group, you can click our link hub on our profiles. And again, we'll review the request to join. And of course, if you schedule a call, we'll get that done too. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.